Money Matters, powered by Nedbank Insurance. Insurance you can bank on every day.
Welcome to Money Matters, proudly brought to you by Nedbank Insurance. I'm Aropi Wamadzana, and as always, it's an absolute pleasure to be with you. Let me start with a question this evening. When was the last time you checked your insurance policy? Not because something went wrong, but because something in your life changed. As we wrap up Savings Month here in South Africa, we're challenging the idea that saving is only about putting money away. True financial security is also about protecting what you've already built, your income, your home, your family. Here's the reality. Life does not stand still. You change jobs, start families, buy homes, launch side hustles. But your insurance, it often stays frozen in time. That's the quiet risk, not the big, loud emergencies we all fear, but the slow mismatch between where you are in life and what your policy still assumes about you being underinsured, not because you don't care, but because your cover didn't keep up. Let me share a story with you briefly. A listener once told us about a life policy she took out at the age of 23. It was perfect for her then, affordable, simple. But 10 years later, she was married, had 2 kids, and a bond on her home. A family emergency made her realize her policy hadn't grown with her. It wouldn't even cover a third of her home loan if she needed. She wasn't uninsured, she was underinsured. And that difference could have cost her family everything. That's why today's episode is called Cover That Grows With You, because insurance isn't just a once-off checkbox, it's a living part of your financial journey. In this episode, we'll explore why your life stage matters when it comes to insurance, how to tailor your cover to your current needs, real stories from South Africans who got it right and some who had to learn the hard way, and of course the myths that stop people from reviewing their cover. Later, we'll be joined by Mercedes Hare from Nedbank Insurance, and she'll help us unpack how Nedbank supports you through life's changes, whether you're just starting out, raising a family, or planning your legacy. So wherever you are in your journey, whether you're renting your first flat in Braamfontein or preparing for retirement in Polokwane, stay with us. This episode could be the turning point between being covered on paper and being protected in real life. Let's get into it.
Money Matters, powered by Nedbank Insurance. Insurance you can bank on every day.
You're listening to Money Matters, proudly brought to you by Nedbank Insurance. Before the break, we explored how insurance isn't just a once-off decision. It's something that should evolve with your life. It's something that should grow with you, evolve with your lifestyle, and protect not just what you have, but where you're going. To help us unpack this further, I'm joined by someone who has helped thousands of South Africans make smarter, more relevant insurance choices. Mercedes Hare is the head of distribution at Nedbank Insurance, where she focuses on making insurance accessible through physical, digital, and outsourced channels. With over 30 years of experience in financial services, she's worked with high net worth clients, managed trust, and helped shape investment strategies. Mercedes is passionate about building strong relationships and using data to improve client experiences. She holds advanced financial planning qualifications and has completed leadership programs at INSEAD and Duke University. Merc, welcome to the show.
Rafua, hello. So nice to be here with you, but you make me sound so old. 30 years. When did that happen?
When did it happen?
I don't know.
But it's happened, and clients and customers across the country are grateful for it because that's what it's been about, right? Providing a service. I want us to start with what we spoke about in last week's episode. It was a lot about understanding your policy, what's covered, what's not, as well as your responsibilities. Today, we're shifting gears a bit to talk about timing. Why is it so important that your insurance changes as your life changes?
Rafua, can I just say it's so exciting to be here with you during Savings Month. I mean, one of the things that we really like to focus on is education of customers, and it really links to what you've just said. So your life stages change. You know, at some point in your life, you're really young and you pretty much thinking about just insuring your cell phone. And as time goes on and your life stages change, so the insurance that you require becomes somewhat different. And you need to make sure that that insurance cover that you've got is actually matching those changing needs.
Right. Now, it's not just about having insurance, it's also about having the right kind of insurance at the right time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I often think about my daughter, who's now quite young. She's obviously in her early 20s. And I think about what she has in her fridge, which is actually close to nothing. And that's right. Most of us in our early 20s couldn't really afford to actually stock that fridge full of food. We reach our mid-40s and suddenly you've got the kids coming home, all of their friends, the family. You need lots of things in your fridge. You get older, you're in your 60s, and actually what you require changes. Refuah, insurance is no different. So when you start thinking about those life stages and you're thinking, actually, what do I need to cover when I'm young? It is pretty much your cell phone. It's that car that you've managed to buy and you hopefully have covered that car as you've driven it off the dealership floor. And it's pretty much nothing else. But as your life changes, your stages change, think about that family. Think about the food that you need to have in your fridge. Now I'm insuring my house, my contents, my car, hopefully also my life, and hopefully also my income. And so your needs change quite a bit.
Yeah. How often are we seeing that someone has gotten a new car, bought a flat, started a family, and the list goes on, and they've taken out insurance over the time, but it's remained untouched?
Well, what I loved in your segment 1, in your introduction, I think, was you actually spoke about the uninsured and the underinsured. And actually being underinsured is probably more risky in some cases than uninsured. So underinsured, I've got insurance. I think I'm actually fine. But what I haven't actually realized, let's use your house. My house has actually grown in value. So I bought it maybe 15, 20 years ago. I covered it for the value at that stage, but time has passed. My house is actually now worth a lot more. I think I'm covered by insurance, but if something really bad happens, I realize I'm underinsured. And that means that what I'm going to get paid out is very, very different to the value of the house.
Yeah. I want to bring in some listener questions at this point. We've got a Sarah from Pretoria who says, I'm expecting my first child. What kind of cover should I be thinking about as a soon-to-be mother? I mean, I love this question as a new mother myself.
I love it as well. Can I just say a huge congratulations to Sarah? What a exciting time of your life, and actually so fun as well, but also serious. You're bringing a new child into the world, and so you're wanting to think, but what is the cover that I need? And so we don't like to think about anything bad going wrong, but sometimes it does. And so something like funeral cover would be most appropriate. And through funeral cover, we also offer support, trauma support, counseling support. There's quite a bit of support that actually sits there linked to our funeral policy. Even something like life insurance. You want to make sure that if anything were to happen to you, your child is actually covered for the future, or actually you're saving towards their education as well.
I like that. I like that a lot, especially because you're not saying to Sarah, get insurance on everything. It's getting the right insurance that fits your needs.
It's exactly right. So I think a lot of people start to almost become afraid of insurance. They're thinking where to start. It seems like I need so much. Can I afford everything? But again, it comes back to those life stages that we were talking about. At each life stage, you need to decide what it is that you require for yourself. And actually, when you review your insurance, sometimes your costs might even go down. It doesn't always need to be about paying more.
Yeah, no, it doesn't need to be about paying more indeed, but it's also about, I guess, kind of looking at your current lifestyle and anticipating what's next when you consider different insurance products.
That's very much the case. So again, you look at your lifestyle, but maybe your lifestyle changes. So maybe I'm driving this really expensive car, I'm living in this really expensive house, but actually something changes in my life, or I make a choice and I actually now choose to drive a cheaper car, or I sell it altogether because I'm going to Uber around. Maybe I move into a house that doesn't cost quite as much. My insurance should actually change. I should update it, and actually my insurance costs might come down. So your life stages or your changes in your life should actually be a trigger to go and review the insurance and the policies that you have.
Are you finding that to be a big problem where people aren't reading their insurance policies and then are, you know, experiencing shock horror come day of a claim?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even me. Like down to, am I actually meant to just clean the fireplace chimney and service the air conditioners because it's a good thing to do? Or is it actually a requirement of my insurance policy? Obviously, it's a good thing to do, but it's a requirement of the insurance policy. And it comes back to, why is it a good thing to do? Well, if my chimney isn't clean, the likelihood of it starting a fire in my house is actually frighteningly good, and then potentially my house is going to burn down. So often those clauses that seem onerous in an insurance policy are actually there to try and help keep us safe. And so reading them actually is a good thing for us all to do.
And I mean, I suppose we could use Nedbank Insurance as an example here, but are you finding that there are platforms or resources that can assist people who might read it but not perhaps entirely understand it? Because I think that's one of the other things is that, well, I don't really understand it, but where do I get the assistance to make sure that I do understand it?
A colleague of mine was chatting to me last week. She's Afrikaans speaking, and she was referencing a particular policy which is in Afrikaans. And she was saying to me, Merk, I read the first sentence, I can't understand it, and I'm Afrikaans speaking. So what we're doing, and we're finding most insurers are really on this journey, it's not only Nedbank Insurance, but we're moving to something that we're calling plain language. So policies and the requirements are written in simple language that we can all understand. Park your car in the garage. Not something that looks like legalese, refer to clause 12C that refers you to clause 3E. Okay, we call it plain language for a reason. We're also trying to put our policy documents, when customers buy digitally, the policy documents are right there for customers in the digital journey when you buy with Nedbank Insurance. So we're also trying to make that policy document really accessible and then written in plain language. So it's very easy for customers. And you will see that that will be a trend that will continue throughout the whole insurance industry. We need to make it simple for our consumers.
No, you really do. And I suppose one thing that we also need to make simple is, we touched on it a little bit earlier, but this uninsured versus underinsured and what exactly the two are. Let's start our conversation there.
So uninsured, I have no insurance. I'm just going to wing it.
Yeah.
Refuwa, we sometimes do that in presentations, don't we?
Yeah.
We stand up and we're just going to wing it.
Yeah.
But now we've got people who are winging it with insurance. They're going, look, I'm probably not going to have that car accident. My house is unlikely to burn down. I'm so secure in my job. I'm unlikely to lose my job. Whatever your reasons are. And so they're winging it and they aren't actually insured. That is uninsured. Underinsured, I actually think I've got insurance. So in my personal life, I lived in a street and we went out one Friday night. And we came home later that Friday night and one of the houses in the street had burned down. And it turned out that that person was completely underinsured. So they'd actually built a house, and they'd built a house for a certain amount of money. Time had passed, and that house was worth significantly more, but they'd never changed the insurance cover to match the value of the house. And that's something that we all need to do every year. Value our houses, or every 5 years maybe. Value your house, check that what you're insured for actually matches the value of your house. If it doesn't, you will only be paid out for a portion that is represented by what the original value of your house actually was.
Yeah. So I just wanted to keep it as simple as we can. Are you saying that if I bought a house 4 years ago and I did some renovations a year ago, bought some extra furniture and things like that, I would need to update my insurer on those developments?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you bought a house for 100,000 Rand and you added a porch. Maybe you added some solar. Maybe you changed the windows. Your house today is now probably worth more than it was when you bought it. It's probably now worth 150,000 Rand. You need to go to your insurer and you need to change that value on your policy. And you can usually do it quite easily. So digital applications have made it very easy with most insurers to effectively go and update your policy, change the value of it, or even if it was your car, maybe you want to add an extra driver. It's very easy to go and add those additional amendments via digital these days.
Yeah.
But Rafiwa, you must do it, because if something happens, you're not going to be paid out the value of your purchase price in the case of your house, plus the additional alterations.
Yeah. And this is contents as well, if you are buying extra furniture and things like that in your house.
And how often do we do that? You know,
A lot.
a lot.
Yeah.
There's a little sale at Mr. Price. We see a few things that we like. Absolutely. So you think that your contents are worth a particular value, and this is something that we see often. And actually what you have in your mind's eye is the contents that you bought when you moved into that nice house when you were 30. You're now 45. Actually, you've bought a whole lot more contents. And if those were to, there was a flood, there was a fire, those contents were to go, what you would actually need to spend to buy them again would be significantly higher.
Yeah.
And so you must actually choose a time for yourself. It depends how much money you're spending on contents, right? So either once a year, every 5 years, just go and double check for yourself. What actually is the value of my contents, and what should the value of my contents be?
The hairs on my arms are standing up because I'm thinking of the thousands of homeowners that have gone and gotten solar installations back in 2023 with the height of load shedding and didn't think that perhaps I need to update my insurance. And I've actually made a mental note to just call my parents after this and make sure that they've done so, because I think we take for granted that we will be fine. And in fact, you won't.
No, you won't. And that's a big, obvious one. So solar panels are a big, obvious one for us. And the way that I like to think about it, and I think you referenced this earlier on, whenever there is a change, so that might be a change in your life, it might be a change in your life stage, you know, you might get married, you might get divorced, you move homes, you buy that new car, you're buying additional contents. All of those should be triggers for you. Any change is a trigger for you. Pull out that insurance policy, have a look what it says, have a look what the values are, get hold of your insurer, phone that call center, or go onto the digital application and make the necessary changes.
Merck, that is the perfect place to leave it now. Whenever you get that trigger, make sure you are making the necessary changes. Merck does stay with us, but when we come back from our break, we get to hear real stories from South Africans who've really benefited from understanding their insurance cover and updating it when their lives change, but also those who've had to learn lessons around not updating their cover and, of course, suffering major losses.
Money Matters, powered by Nedbank Insurance. It's not just any other insurance. It's insurance you can bank on every day. In partnership with Alex FM, Westside FM, Sosha FM, Kofifi FM, Teta FM, Izwilo Mzansi, Radio Kwezi, Highway Radio, Bembe FM, Alfred Nzo FM, Mahiken Radio, Nkangala Radio, Radio KC FM, Radio Zibonele. Money Matters, powered by Nedbank Insurance. Insurance you can bank on every day.
Welcome back to Money Matters, brought to you by Nedbank Insurance. Now, before the break, Mercedes reminded us of something so simple yet powerful. Your cover should grow with your life. And like she said, it's not about having the most cover. It's about having the right cover for where you are now and where you're headed. And sometimes the lesson only hits home when you hear it from someone who's lived it. Here are two stories of people who made insurance work for them by simply keeping it aligned with their lives. They reviewed their cover and avoided major setbacks because of it. Anganati, Jack, thank you very much for joining us today. Anganati, I want to start with you and your experience.
Thank you for having me on the show. So I had been living in a high-risk neighborhood in Jozi for a while. But finally, last year, I got to move to a much quieter suburb, right? And one day I was just reviewing my debit orders, and I had a light bulb moment. I thought to myself, if my environment has changed. Surely my risk has too, right? So I picked up the phone and I contacted my insurer. I added my car policy, and I didn't end there. Okay. I also then boosted my funeral cover as well as my household insurance for my new place. And it's really helped me a great deal, you know. I didn't realize how underinsured I was until I, took the time to actually check it out. And now I sleep better and pay less.
Yeah, I was about to say it helps you because not only have you gotten rid of the risk of living in a riskier area and therefore paying more, but you've also then protected all the things that you've worked for, right?
Correct. I mean, in this day and age that we live in now, people are hungry. So, opportunities to, just grab people's stuff and mug people are everywhere. So it really helped me a great deal in terms of understanding what that actually means.
Jack, give us your story.
Hi. So I had a daughter recently, and that changed everything for me overnight. I wasn't just responsible for myself, so I had to take a look at my policies and realize that I had more cover on my cell phone than I did on myself, right? And that put the fear of God in me, especially with a young baby. So I reached out to my insurer and had them kind of up my personal cover. And in the process of that as well, found out that I had other benefits, kind of trauma support and legal services should I need them. So that was extra peace of mind. And I felt a little silly, really, because I should have done it sooner, because but, better late than never. And now my daughter's covered.
Now your daughter's covered.
Yeah.
I want to come to Anganati's story, Merk, and just get a sense from you as to how common or how often do you see cases like Anganati's?
So Anganati, I want to just say what a absolutely fabulous story. I mean, so often we're talking to people who are always worried about their insurance premiums going up. But you're so right, because insurers actually price for risk. So if your risk has changed because your environment changes, then absolutely your premium is going to change. So I love that you're bringing that to life. We see it quite often, but the perception out there is always insurance is never going down. Insurance is always going up. I think the way that you approached it as well, where you've got now that extra money and you're not taking that money and putting into those niceties, you're actually almost looking at your whole insurance portfolio, your whole protection portfolio, and you're going, with that extra money, what can I actually upweight somewhere? And so you're putting it a bit more to funeral, contents, etc. So look, for us, your story is actually a very common one, but from a perception perspective, people don't often realize that if their risk changes, or even if they manage their assets in a less risky way, actually those insurance premiums will go down. So I love the story.
Yeah. And what about Jack's story? I mean, it's something that you and I have spoken about at length. And what advice would you then give to a new parent who is looking for different products?
So Jack's story is very typical. And linking it back to the value of your cell phone, those things cost so much today that obviously that insurance is going to be expensive. But what we've said in our previous episodes is whenever you have a life change, that should actually be a trigger for you to have a look at your insurance and to review your insurance. And there's obviously a number of big life triggers out there, but having a child is arguably one of the biggest. And I think, as we said before, you always assume that nothing is going to go wrong, but insurance is there to effectively protect you if actually something does. And for your daughter to have that peace of mind, but also you as a parent, you've now got that peace of mind knowing that should the worst actually happen, she would be taken care of. So I think great that you did that. We often see individuals doing it a little bit later rather than earlier. But I want to say it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. What's so important is that you've actually done the right thing now.
You've done the right thing now, indeed. And I just want to get a sense from you, how easy was it for you to go about the process? You know, the assistance, the
Oh, it was
admin process.
flawless.
Yeah.
It was absolutely flawless. Like I said, I was actually quite glad to have an extensive conversation because I found out that there were added benefits that I could have been using all along, right? Kind of legal services and trauma support. And you need that all the time. So it was seamless. It was
Yeah.
seamless. On the call, off the call.
On the call, off the call.
Yeah.
How was your experience, Angnati?
My experience was nothing short of sweet. I mean, I picked up the phone and I chatted to them and let them know about my situation. And as often as we hear, especially with young people, right, we always think we'll, live till forever. We think forever young, But, it was important for me to be able to just, help out and think about the future. Think about funeral cover, household contents insurance, and how that can help me in the long run, right? So that was really good.
Do you have an understanding of the fact that there are other products should your family grow, for example? Are you aware of what's available to you?
No, most definitely I am. I think the conversation that we had was really informative. It helped me understand how important insurance is, especially for us young people as well. I think so often we think, it's okay, we're still young, so let's just, see how it goes. But it's very important that we get to understand these things while it's still very early. So,
Yeah. Consumer education is a big thing for you, Merck, that you've lamented on quite a bit in our discussion. And I wonder if you feel like information around insurance and different insurance products is freely available for people to understand what different policies are out there and what it is that would work best for them, especially if they're thinking about, like Anganati is saying, growing your family or getting to a different stage in your life.
I honestly think that the insurance industry has come a long way, but still has a long way to go in terms of education. So I think we come from a place where insurance was sold, and we're now in a place where we're actually trying to have South African consumers understand, but what is the purpose of insurance? What is the value that it brings to me? It's not just about a sales agent earning commission in the worst way that one might actually think about it. But actually there's a value to me. There is something that I need to protect in my life. And that is what insurance does for me. And I think we still today talk a lot about certain products, but we don't speak enough as the industry around coming at it from the customer's perspective. And if your life looks like this, these are the policies that you should be thinking about. This is the type of insurance that you could be considering. I think that there's still so much more that we can do in that space. And I also think giving customers the comfort that the channel that they engage the insurer with, there's actually a number of different channels. So both of your stories have referenced call centers, and we talk about the digital channels, but it's not an either or, and we also have those advisors that have always been in the industry and are still there if you actually need a bit more deeper advice. So I think the insurance industry now also gives consumers the option of how they engage, but I think that there's so much more that we could still be doing from an education perspective.
I want to stick on that theme a little bit more when we talk about the education adapting to life changes. We've got a question from Atabo in Durban, and he says, I'm thinking of using my car for Uber or Bolt to make some extra money. How do I make sure it's still covered if something happens?
It's such a great question. And so often in life, we just do something that makes sense to us. But if you're actually thinking about it through insurance and protection, we need to think a little bit differently. So as soon as you're starting to use your car for an Uber purpose, etc., or Bolt, now you've moved into a commercial world. It's not just your personal vehicle. And you can't just insure it under your personal car insurance. Something happens, the insurer isn't going to pay you out. What you do need to do is you need to move it to something that looks like commercial insurance. And there you can find insurance for your car, for you to operate as an Uber driver, for example. But you do need to make a change. You need to let your insurer know what you're doing and let them advise you what type of insurance you now need to take out for that vehicle.
Speaking of change, Jack, having a child is a big change. And in South Africa at the moment, we are living in a cost of living crisis.
Right.
And getting insurance or that extra insurance is an extra cost when you think about the mouths you have now to
Absolutely,
feed.
yeah.
You know, why is it so important for you to continue on with that expense?
The thought and the fear and the worry of my child not being protected in my absence, really that's the big motivating factor. I take a lot of comfort in knowing that, yes, it might take a small chunk of my paycheck every month to make sure I have that peace of mind, but rather my child have something than not, right? That's the ultimate driving force and the ultimate kind of incentive, and everything else falls by the wayside. I'd rather sacrifice my own personal kind of needs, wants, and luxuries to make sure that my child is protected. Because ultimately, I think it would have been easier if it was just insurance for me and, whatever, but it's for my child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Anganati, I see that you are vigorously nodding in agreement there. And I mean, you've got a couple of policies out, and for you, it's not a grudge purchase. It's definitely something that you feel is important.
Yeah, most def. I think as we get older and as we grow, as humans, we acquire a lot of assets, right, along the way, and it's very important that those assets that we have, we insure them, right, in case of anything happens, and that has taught me a great deal, because now I can be easy knowing that, everything that I own is insured, and I don't have to worry about what will happen to me or my house when I'm not there. So it gives me such great pleasure to just know that I can rest. And
How difficult is it for you in your line of work, Merk, when you are faced with consumers who are dealing with the cost of living crisis, and many a times the first thing to get off the budget is some form or other of insurance? How do you then get people to understand that rather sacrifice something else?
And it's always a difficult and a challenging conversation. And the place that we probably see it most often is in vehicle insurance. So buying the car, driving the car off the dealership floor and thinking, okay, that's fine, I can just cancel my insurance, nobody will know. But when we end up having those conversations with consumers, it's always around trying to share back with them the value of what this insurance brings you if something goes wrong. It's that promise of what is it that we're protecting. And I think both of you have actually said it so well, and without trying to use scare tactics at all, it is around saying, but if I cancel this premium, and something happens to my house, something happens to my car, there's a big storm, there's a flood, the geyser bursts, there's a loss of a job. What does that actually mean for me? And I think very often, what you start to see with consumers is in their own minds, they start to realize that they actually do have the funds. They need to budget differently. Maybe they need to cut some things out. But as soon as they start to see insurance not as this grudge purchase, but the value that it could actually bring me if something untoward happens, you see a shift in mindset.
Yeah, I see you agreeing there.
100%.
Yeah.
My child.
Yeah.
That's it. Primary,
Yeah.
especially as a new parent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe the fear will kind of dissipate or kind of get easier as time goes on. But right now it's difficult not to just, again, not worry about work and, just life in general, road accidents, or I don't know, whatever. Life is strange. So that peace of mind makes it easier for me to be able to get on with other things.
Yeah.
Because
Anganati, I just want to get a final thought from you. How often do you plan on updating your insurance policy, given the benefits you've seen now from the initial update you've done? And why is that important for you?
Listen, I get excited now sometimes when I buy stuff, because I know I'm just going to add it onto my insurance. And so I get really excited just knowing that I can just rest, knowing that, everything will be taken care of. So for me, it has really helped me a great deal, and just in terms of, being easy about stuff that's going on in and around me. But also, just knowing that now, living now in a low risk, environment also helps a lot, in terms of my insurance and my premiums and how everything has, just panned out. So I'm really, really grateful.
And Merck, this is something you and I have touched on previously in terms of making sure that you are keeping your policies up to date. Just remind us how often we have to do it, and also just the benefits of it. You might find, like in Anganati's case, he saved, from updating where his car was being parked, for example. So some of the benefits that you didn't know you could get out of just simply updating your policy.
Yeah, it's good that you remind me of that and that I remind myself of it. So we had a moment after one of the segments where I was going, gosh, when last did I actually update my contents policy? And we do tend to buy things, right? As you said, right? So look, the way that I look at it is whenever there is anything that changes in your life, and I think both of you have shared so many examples, but a change in your life could be you have a child, you get married, you get divorced, there's a death in the family. You buy an asset, your car, your house, another house. You change jobs. All of those things are triggers. And whenever there's a trigger, you should actually be checking in with your insurance policy and just checking what are the values, what are the terms and conditions. We often talk about, you've got a car, and in order for it to be insured, it needs to be parked in a garage overnight. But when we move, for example, is there a garage? Do we remember that? Or there is a garage, but do we remember that we must actually go park the car in the garage? So good to almost read your policy to remind yourself of what it's asking of you. And then whenever there is a change in your life, it's a trigger to check your policy. I would say outside of that, if you've got a very stable life, nothing is changing, I would say at least once every 5 years, you should actually be going and reading that policy and just checking what it says.
I just want to go back to the side hustle conversation we had a moment ago. And just to clarify that if you're going to change it from personal insurance to commercial, immediately one fears that the cost might be a lot more elevated. And I just want you to perhaps allay some of those fears in the cover that you'd be getting as commercial insurance versus private, because you've chosen to make some extra money on the side via Uber or Bolt.
So it's so difficult to say what your premium is going to be because it really does depend what your side hustle is going to look like. But maybe just to build on that a little bit, I mean, if you've bought a car as an individual, you're paying individual insurance. If you've bought a house as an individual, you're paying insurance for your house, assuming that you're going to live there for residential purposes. You could turn either of those into a side hustle. But that actually does change the risk. So let's think about somebody driving a car and now they're actually going to be an Uber driver. Your risk changes because you are just on the road for so much longer. We're going from driving to work and it's an hour here or there to now potentially we're driving that car 12, 14, 15 hours a day. The chances that something's going to happen, that's the risk that actually goes up. So you do need to be priced differently by the insurer because insurers are always pricing for risk. But again, let's take it back to your protection. If you're actually turning your asset into a side hustle, that's your stream of income. And again, we're going to, what do you want to protect? Surely you want to protect your side hustle. You want to protect that asset that's enabling the side hustle. So I would say the focus needs to be less on the premium that you're going to be paying and more on what are you protecting.
That's such an important point that Merck has raised there when it comes to side hustles, because they are on the rise. And the last thing you want is to hustle hard only for you to lose it all because you didn't declare it. We'll be back with more after the break.
Money Matters, powered by Nedbank Insurance. Insurance you can bank on every day. In just a few easy steps, you can protect your loved ones by taking out life cover of up to 3 million rand. Log on to the Money app and go to the Insurance tab. Give us consent to share your information with us. Complete a few questions about yourself. Select the cover amount you would like. Review your code and accept the terms and conditions. Select your debit order date. Nominate your beneficiaries. confirm your cover, and just like that, you are protected. It's insurance you can bank on every day. Nedbank Insurance. Did you know you can get up to 100,000 Rand in funeral cover from as little as 50 Rand a month? Maria didn't want her children burdened with costs one day, so she planned ahead and took out Nedbank Insurance funeral cover and made sure her family wouldn't carry that financial weight during their grief. Ready to move to insurance you can trust? Visit the nearest Nedbank branch. Find us online on nedbank.co.za/insurance. Use the Nedbank Money app or call us on 0800 333 111. Nedbank Insurance. It's not just any other insurance. It's insurance you can bank on every day. You're listening to Money Matters, powered by Nedbank Insurance. It's not just any other insurance. It's insurance you can bank on every day.
Welcome back. You're watching Money Matters, proudly brought to you by Nedbank Insurance. Now, we've just heard those powerful stories of South Africans who took control of their cover and avoided major losses by simply keeping it aligned with their lives. But let's be honest, knowing you need to update or review your policy is one thing. Actually doing it, now that's another story. We just don't. Mercedes Hare, why do you think that this is something that people delay?
Refuah, life gets busy. There's so much going on, whether it's work, whether it's the family, whether it's some personal crises that we're having, but we're busy people. And I think also in our mind's eye, we think it's going to be such a difficult thing to do, such a hassle. And I honestly would say to everybody, it's actually quite easy. So some of us like to do things digitally. Some of us like to do things via call centers. It's very easy to make a change via a call center. It's very easy to make a change to your policy via digital. But I do think it's that combination of busyness and you're thinking it's going to just be so much more difficult than what it actually ends up being.
Yeah, it's like that thing where it says, I will get to it soon, or waiting for Monday to start a new diet or a new habit. It's exactly that. The reality is that life does not wait though, right? And insurance is also not something you want to leave until later.
It's exactly right. And the thing is, when we do, something goes wrong, inevitably. And when it does go wrong, have you ever had that moment, Refuah, where there's that pit in your stomach and you just go, I know I needed to do this and I didn't. Maybe it's when you get pulled over because you haven't renewed your license. But that's still a small one for us to actually deal with. When it comes to insurance, then it's not so small because now something has actually gone wrong. My geyser has burst in my house. I've had a car accident. I actually do need the income protection because I lost my job. So insurance is one of those things that when you need it, you really, really need it. And you don't want to be having regrets at that point that you put it off because something else seemed more important when you were a little bit busier.
Yeah. But how do you know which insurance is right for you? It takes me back to Sarah a little bit earlier, who is a new mother or a mother-to-be. And, we spoke about funeral insurance that she could take out. But, our circumstances are so vast and so different. And our incomes are also not that great. We are living in a cost of living crisis in the country. So how do you know which insurance is the best one to take out?
So depending on who you are and your life stage, the insurance that you need will actually be quite different. The way I like to think about it is I like to think quite simply, and I tend to think in pictures. So if I were to think about my life is valuable to others. Maybe because I'm the one that's actually producing the income. And so if I'm thinking about that, I need to think about what is the legacy that I leave behind. And that's usually what we call life insurance. If something happens to me and my life is valuable, somebody's going to want to give me a good burial. And that's funeral cover. And regardless of what my income is or my stage of life or where I sit in the South African ecosystem, I probably need something that looks like life cover, something that covers my life, right? I then am at a stage in life where I've bought a vehicle. So that car is precious. I need to insure my car. And the type of insurance that I can have can be broad. I can just actually go and insure my tires and my rims. Preferably, I go and I insure the whole car. Okay, but we're thinking now about asset protection. I've bought a house, and so I need to insure my house. So if you see what I've done, I've spoken there about myself and my own life, and what are the insurances that actually link to my life. I then think about assets that I own, or actually I'm still paying off the debt, the borrowings, to enable me to buy those assets. And that's my car and that's my house. Then there's my job. That's the income that I earn to effectively enable me to have this house, enable me to have the car, enable me to have the cell phone. Very different stages of life. And that income needs to be protected. And so I tend to think about insurance in those categories: my life, my assets, my income. And then one can even go into things like education, etc. But really, whoever you are, whatever stage of life you're at, you can literally just think through 3 elements. Do I need to do something for my life? Do I need to do something for my assets? Do I need to do something for my income?
And of course, timing is everything.
Timing is always everything. So when I do it, is that difference between actually I'm uninsured because I'm thinking it's a good idea to take out insurance for my life, but I actually haven't. Underinsured is I've got this great insurance. I'm actually not sure if it covers me any longer or not, but I'm not getting round to actually review that policy. And that's where I go into underinsured. And so timing is actually critically important.
I want us to hear from some of our listeners now. We've got Lerato from Johannesburg who says, it feels too easy to end up with the wrong cover. My insurer only contacts me when my premium goes up. How can I make sure that my policy actually suits me?
So Lerato, I really love the question. And I think what I would want to share with most South African viewers is regardless of who your insurer is, it doesn't just have to be Nedbank Insurance, but there are many channels that are actually open to you. And so we talk a lot these days about the digital channels. We talk about call centers, but we still also have financial planners and financial advisors. And so if you're unsure, you've gone through that digital channel, you've gone through the buying cycle. If you're unsure, you just need to reach out to your insurer and ask the questions that you need to ask. There will be somebody there that will actually be able to guide you and give you that advice that you need.
And I think people need to understand that those resources are not available to you at an added cost, because I think that's what people get afraid of is I'm going to have to pay a little bit extra for the financial advisor or whatever it may be.
So in insurance, there typically isn't.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about complex insurance advice here. We're actually talking about simple insurance advice for individuals. The insurance company wants to help you. They really want to help answer your questions. And so they're providing these different channels or these different platforms effectively to answer those questions. Most often, the question that you have has already been asked by so many others. And so most insurers have got something that looks like frequently asked questions.
Yeah.
I would just encourage everybody, reach out for the support. It really is there for you.
So let's take a short break. When we come back, we're going to hear from you, the questions that you might have for Merck to help you on your insurance journey. We're going to be answering those questions, but also we're going to be doing what I love to do every time we sit together, is bust some of the myths that are holding people back. Stay with us.
Money Matters, powered by Nedbank Insurance. Insurance you can bank on every day. Money Matters, powered by Nedbank Insurance. Insurance you can bank on every day.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us here on Money Matters, powered by Nedbank Insurance. As promised, we're going to be hearing from you the questions you might have for Merck to help you understand and navigate this insurance landscape a little bit better. Let's take the first voice note, and Merck, I hope you're ready to answer some questions.
I'm ready, Rafua. I'm excited, actually. Let's hear what the listeners have to say.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Refilwe. I'm nearing retirement and on a fixed income. Paying for insurance has gotten really hard, so I'm wondering if it's worth keeping it at my age.
That's a very important question, right?
It really is, and it's one that we get quite often. What we would say is, gosh, whatever you have to do, keep that insurance. So you're on a fixed income, you're feeling like that insurance percentage that you're paying is just eating into this total income, as our listener has said, and you feel like you want to cut something. But remember what I've said before, if this is your house, this is your precious asset, but it's the place that you live, it's the roof over your head. If something happens to that, what do you do? What does life look like then? And I think what we often see, and I'm not saying that this is the case for the caller, but we often see people that will almost prefer to pay their Mnet subscription, the Netflix subscription, the gym subscription, rather than paying for their insurance. So, difficult stage of life, choices to be made, but absolutely choose to pay your insurance, rather cut some of the other, maybe the other expenses that you've actually got. The niceties. Don't cut your insurance.
Let's take another voice note.
Okay. Hi, my name is Adolf, and I've had the same policy for years. How often did you say I should check or update my insurance policy as life goes on?
So as life goes on, literally any time you have got a change in your circumstances, you change your job, your marriage, children, you buy an asset, you sell an asset, you literally do anything, you buy additional contents, anything that you change in your life that has got value to it, you go and you check your insurance policy. If nothing is changing, if everything is actually quite stable, my rule of thumb is once every 5 years. But aside from that, your trigger is any change in your life circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take another one.
I'm in my 50s and never had life cover. Is it possible to get affordable insurance at this stage of my life, or did I miss the boat?
I don't know. Is there such a thing as it's never too late to start when it comes to insurance?
It's a tough one. It really is. I want to say it's never too late, but the longer you leave life insurance, the more expensive it is going to become. Okay. So if I'm going to choose to take life insurance out when I'm 20, it's actually really cheap because I'm young, I'm healthy, whereas as life goes on, I'm 40, 50, 60. If I'm going to take life insurance, it is going to be a bit more expensive. But what I would say to the caller is shop around. You can actually get life insurance that is simple, non-underwritten, and it's so easy to take digitally. And you can get a quick sense of how much it's going to cost you. And if you're actually healthy at 50, and many people are, don't be afraid of going and testing it out. It may very well not be too late for you.
Yeah. I think we've got a couple more. Let's just get those in.
Hi, my name is Balisa. What kind of cover makes sense for someone starting out? I don't have kids or a house yet.
So unsure if she's working. If she's working, I would definitely say income protection, because normally most of us have got a current account, we've got a credit card, maybe we've got an overdraft.
Yeah.
If that's the case, definitely income protection. If not, the first thing that you would get is actually funeral cover. So funeral cover covers your life, but invariably you've got family members or extended family members, and it gives you that opportunity to leave a legacy for that extended family that you might have.
Let's take another one.
Hi, my name is Nwanda Mkize. My friends say insurance is a waste of money if you're young and healthy. Honestly, I've kind of felt the same. Like, why pay now for something I might never use?
I mean, I've probably thought that at some stage as well.
I know my kids have definitely thought that. Look, what I would want to say to this caller is absolutely don't listen to your friends. It is wonderful to actually take out insurance when you're young. And why do I say that? Really for a couple of reasons. It is the cheapest time that you can actually take out insurance because you've got age on your side, you've got health on your side, and so you will effectively save money in the years to come because your premiums will be cheaper given that you've actually taken this insurance out at a younger age. That said, though, we also live in South Africa. And in South Africa, what we typically see is one person, one breadwinner, is typically supporting many extended family members.
Thank you very much for answering those questions. I'm sure our listeners are very grateful for some of the insights that you've just shared. And if you're still tuned into Money Matters with Nedbank Insurance, it's time for my favorite part of the show, myth busting.
Money Matters, powered by Nedbank Insurance. Insurance you can bank on every day.
Welcome back. You're still tuned into Money Matters with Nedbank Insurance. And now it's time for one of my favorite parts of the show, myth busting. Because let's be honest, there's a lot of confusion out there when it comes to insurance. And social media doesn't always help, especially on platforms like TikToks. All right, Merck, myth number 1, insurance is a one-size-fits-all solution. You get one policy and you're sorted for life.
Absolutely not. We're going to bust that myth. So you don't. I mean, if you're 25 years old and you take out an insurance policy, that policy is going to change when you reach 40 years old. It's going to change again when you reach 55 years old. So insurance is deeply personal. It's very much based on life stages, and insurance needs to change with you as your life stages change and as you change.
Myth number 2, once you pick out a policy, you're stuck with it forever.
You are absolutely not. Almost all policies can be cancelled, and you can do that whenever you want to. So if you've taken out a policy that you realize no longer serves you, either for your life or for your assets or to protect your income, you can cancel it, or you can change it. And you can change it to what that policy needs to be for you right now. So, for example, adding on additional beneficiaries or changing the value of your asset. So your policy really can change and grow with you.
Yeah, I mean, that ties in beautifully into another question that we got from Nomsa Bloemfontein. She asks, can I have more than one life cover policy? I've heard some claims get declined if another one has been paid out.
So you need to understand your life insurance policies quite carefully. So depending on the nature of the life insurance policy, you might actually only be able to be covered for a certain amount. So funeral cover might be one of those. You've got a maximum cover limit of 100,000 Rand. If I go and take a funeral policy with a number of different insurance companies, each to the value of 100,000 Rand, that's going to be a challenge.
Okay, let's do another one. Myth number 3, insurance is a luxury and not a necessity.
Exactly the opposite. It's a necessity, not a luxury. In some cases, it might enable your luxuries. You're employed, you lose your job, income protection protects some of the debt that you actually have. So think about it is that necessity that enables you to continue to earn your income or actually protect the assets that you've spent so much time paying a significant amount towards. It is the necessity that you actually have.
Now, let's take a look at a final one, myth number 4. Changing your insurance is complicated. And I think many of us fear the complexities of doing anything that's got to do with admin.
And it used to be.
Yeah.
It used to be really complex. Let's not shy away from that. The industry has made it so much easier. So we're very conscious of how complex these things used to be in insurance. Most insurers now have some kind of a digital platform. They've made it much easier for customers to actually change anything that they want to on their policy. And if you're not comfortable with a digital platform, you contact the call center.
No, thank you very much. Easy language that we can all understand. You've done that for us this evening. So insurance is not rigid, expensive, or intimidating, as you've just heard. It's flexible, accessible, and essential. And as we've seen today, the more you understand it, the more value you can unlock from it. Let's take one short break, and when we return, we'll wrap up today's episode with a few takeaways that you can act on right now.
Money Matters, powered by Nedbank Insurance. Insurance you can bank on every day.
And just like that, we wrap up another episode of Money Matters, proudly brought to you by Nedbank Insurance. If there's one message that resonated throughout today, it's this: insurance is not something you get once and forget. It should grow with you, just like your career, your family, and of course your dreams. Mercedes, thank you very much for joining us. We really do appreciate you joining us.
Refiwe, it's been absolutely fantastic to be here during Savings Month. Really, really appreciate it. And if I could share just one last thing, it would be to remind everybody that insurance is a promise to be there when you need us the most in your life stages.
Thank you very, very much. Now, that was beautifully said. And during Savings Month and beyond, remember that insurance is more than just protection. It's peace of mind. It's security. It's one of the smartest ways to preserve what you've worked so hard to build. So here's your Money Matters challenge this week. No need to read through paperwork or crunch numbers, but to simply pause and ask yourself, what happens if you get into an accident? A storm damages your home, load shedding ruins your fridge, or worse, you pass away unexpectedly. Would your loved ones be okay? Would your savings survive that hit? Would your current cover show up when it's needed most? If those questions leave you unsure, that's your sign to act. Review your policy schedule. Check if your life has outgrown your cover. If you're unsure or need support, speak to your insurer or financial advisor. Many offer tools and support to help you review your policy, which should be a safety net and not a question mark. Thank you to everyone listening and for joining us this evening. If something in today's episode made you think differently about your own cover, share it with us. Have a story or a question about how your insurance has grown with you or hasn't? Drop us a message on social media using hashtag #MoneyMattersWithNedbank. Your experience could help someone else take action. Stay informed, stay protected, and remember, money matters, and so does making sure it's protected. I'm Ropwa Madzena, and we'll see you next time.
Money Matters, powered by Nedbank Insurance. It's not just any other insurance. It's insurance you can bank on every day. In partnership with Alex FM, Westside FM, Sosha FM, Kofifi FM, Theta FM, Izwi Lomzansi, Radio Kwezi, Highway Radio, Wembe FM, Alfred Nzo FM, Mahiken Radio, Nkangala Radio, Radio KC FM, Radio Zibonele,